Everything I'm about to share with you, I promise you, you've heard it before. Now, I may say it a little bit differently, I may package it a little bit differently, but you've heard it before. I'll go one step further. Everything I'm about to share with you, you already know intuitively and you know it intellectually. But I'm going to caution you. I'm going to caution you not to sit back with your arms folded saying, I already know this. But instead, I want to challenge you to lean forward and ask one of the most important questions you can ever ask yourself. How well am I actually doing this? See, there's a difference between what we know and what we do, and that's called a performance gap. It is the gap between what we know and what we do. It is the difference between what we know we're supposed to do every single day of our life and what we actually do. And the first step to maximum growth and achieving high performance is closing that gap, is doing the things that we know we're supposed to do. Just because something is basic, it doesn't mean that it's easy. If it was easy, everybody else would be doing it. But as you all know, we live in a world that tells us it's okay to skip steps, tells us we should always be on the hunt for a shortcut or a hack, and implies that there's nothing wrong with focusing on the outcome and just skipping over the process. But anytime you do that, you are making a grave mistake, because the basics work. They always have, and they always will. And the very first step to you maximizing your growth, the very first step to you maximizing your performance is to admit that the basics work. But it's also having the humility to acknowledge that implementing the basics every single day is never, ever going to be easy. I'm willing to bet right now that if I ask you to take out your pen and your notepad and make a list of the healthiest foods that you know of, you could do that with no problem. And I'm sure that if I collected everybody's notes, many of you would write down the exact same foods. If I asked you to shout out, how many hours of sleep are you supposed to get every night? You all could do that in a split second. Most of you would shout out the exact same number. And if I ask you just to etch out, what should a weekly workout routine look like for your physical fitness? You don't need to submit it to men's or women's health, but just roughly how many days per week, how long per session, and what type of activity should you do? Every single one of you would be able to do that with no problem. But then if I look you in the eye and I ask you, are those the foods that you eat? Is that the amount of sleep you got last night? And when was the last time you went through one of those workouts? For many of you, you would start to see a performance gap. You know exactly what to do, but for some reason, that's not the behavior that you're performing on a daily basis. And this has nothing to do with learning anything new. This is all about implementing what you know you should be doing anyway.